Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome one and all to a special Wednesday matinee edition of the Do Dissidents podcast. Keaton Weiss here, of course, with Russell Dobular.
Hello.
Hey, everybody. Great to be here with you today. Thank you guys for making time for us this Wednesday afternoon. Lots to get to today. This is a true news broadcast. this afternoon. A true news broadcast, putting things together last minute as news broke. In fact, I had to enlist the help of our legal correspondent, Ian Weiss, my brother, now published op-ed contributor to The Hill. I had to get some last-minute legal advice for this first segment that we're going to do.
I heard Bree is watching her back.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Well, yeah. Well, they're on the Hill, so maybe they can have some legal talks about the goings-on of the day, because there is certainly a lot to get to. But we thank you guys all very much for being here. Please hit that like button while you're in here. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that follow button. We're at 566 to start on YouTube. 534 to start on Rumble. Multicasting today. Should we jump right into the breaking news? It's pretty breaking. It's pretty hot.
Let's break it.
Let's break it. Let's break some news. So, folks, these are a couple videos that we're going to show you. Obviously, jury deliberations have begun in the Trump hush money case. And here is Donald Trump coming to meet the reporters. Looks not good. Not good. Believe me, not good. This is as defeated as I've ever seen him. So let's take a look.
Thank you very much. I would say, in listening to the charges from the judge, who's, as you know, very conflicted and corrupt, because of the confliction, very, very corrupt.
That'll work.
Mother Teresa could not beat these charges. These charges are rigged. The whole thing is rigged. The whole country's a mess between the borders and fake elections.
Kidding, joking, just doing a little trolling. Don't mean we love our MAGA audience. We love you very much.
We love Trump.
Yeah, we just teasing.
He's a poet warrior in the classic sense.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we'll back this up a little bit.
The whole thing is rigged. The whole country's a mess between the borders and fake elections, and you have a trial like this where the judge is so conflicted he can't breathe. He's got to do his job. And it's not for me, that I can tell you. It's a disgrace. And I mean that. Mother Teresa could not beat those charges, but we'll see. We'll see how we do.
Mother Teresa could not beat these charges. Okay, so what is he talking about? Like I said, I enlisted the help of my brother to break down some of this late-breaking information. So I'm going to play a video for you guys from Fox News from just a few minutes before we came on the air this afternoon. So essentially, Trump is charged with falsifying business records. Now, falsifying business records by itself would be a misdemeanor, the statute of limitations on which would have expired in this case in 2019. And so they have to charge him with a felony. And in order to charge him with a felony, he has to be guilty of falsifying business records with intent to commit a second crime. There are 3 possible second crimes he could be guilty of, which would have meant he would have been falsifying those business records in service of one of 3 additional crimes. One is a tax law violation. One is a falsification of other business records violations, which kind of seems like a two-headed snake, because couldn't that be the first falsification? But anyway, not to complicate things too much. And the third is a federal campaign law. So he has to be guilty of falsifying business records in service of one of those 3 other crimes. And what the judge is saying now, what the judge is telling the jury now, is that they do not have to be in agreement on what that second crime is. They can pick from either one of those 3. And a lot of people are saying that's very unfair. Okay, so let's hear this.
That's like saying if Donald Trump has had any venereal diseases, he's guilty of all of them.
Exactly.
What are the odds that guy hasn't had a case of chlamydia?
Exactly. Well put. Well, that the analogy my brother gave me to simplify this is that if you were going to say, okay, we're going to charge someone with a felony for jaywalking because that jaywalking was in order to commit a second crime. So did you jaywalk in order to rob the bank across the street? Did you jaywalk in order to steal the car across the street? Or did you jaywalk in order to sell the guy drugs across the street? And what the judge is telling the jury now is you can disagree on what that second crime was. As long as you all agree he's guilty of one of those 3, we will add those numbers up. So 4, 4, and 4, to make things simple, equals 12. Guilty verdict. That's what they're saying now, which is not the way crimes are typically prosecuted. If you're charged with a murder, the jury has to piece together how you committed that murder. They have to agree on a chain of events and say, yes, beyond a reasonable doubt, all 12 of us are in agreement. You did it.
Right.
That's not what's happening here. So let's hear this explained on Fox News as broken probably about 45 minutes to an hour ago.
Let me ask you about the three choices.
And one thing, I guess 11:07 a.m., whatever, a few hours ago. You get what I'm saying. All right, here we go.
Well, let me ask you about the three choices. And one thing in particular that this judge said that these jurors could do. He just delivered what is being called really the pinnacle of all of this. He said that there is no need to agree on what has occurred. They can disagree on what the crime was among the three choices. Thus, this means that they could split 4-4-4, and the judge would still treat them unanimously. What does that mean?
Yeah. Well, it's really outrageous because in a normal criminal case, every statutory crime has what we call elements of the offense. Like in a bank robbery case, it's, you have to rob. It's got to be a financial institution. You have to show intent. Those are the things the jury has to agree on unanimously that they were proved beyond a reasonable doubt. Here, what we're doing is taking the element that actually makes this a felony, because remember, falsification of records is normally a misdemeanor in New York. What makes it a felony is that you're concealing or committing another crime. And here the judge is telling them they don't have to agree about what the other crime is under circumstances where that not only is what makes this a felony, what makes it a 4-year potential prison penalty rather than a year or less, but it's also what gets us into the courtroom, because if this had been a misdemeanor, the time to bring this case would have lapsed in 2019. So the only reason they're still able to bring this case is because it's a felony, allegedly, and yet now the judge is saying, you don't have to agree on what the felony is.
All right, so this is an example. My brother gave me a very legal term here since he does this for a living. This is an example of what people in the legal profession call fucking bullshit. That's how it was described to me. Yeah, no, it seems like they are lowering the standard that you would need to convict someone beyond a reasonable doubt in order to cast this wide net. Okay, you don't have to agree on a specific chain of events. What that guy was saying on Fox News is whatever that second crime was that he was doing the first crime in service of, that determines intent. So if you can't agree on intent, can you really agree on a crime that's been committed? It's basically what the judge is saying. Look, you all know he did something. So just vote to say he did something. We'll add those numbers up. What exactly he did, you don't have to agree on that. We get to 12 people who say, yeah, this motherfucker did something. Boom, guilty. That seems to be what they're doing. So I want to thank my brother for helping us with some last-minute legal advice. I think I owe him $3,700 for half hour's labor. So hit us up with those super chats, folks.
Yeah, well, this is the kind of thing, we just covered Braga, the Bronx MAGA rally. And this is the kind of thing that fuels, that lends credibility to Trump's constant claims of, hey, nobody's ever seen anything like it. Hey, I'm as honest as the day is long, but they treat me like a crook. No, he really is a crook, but not in the ways that they claim. And even where he actually is guilty of what they accuse him of, it's selective prosecution, because I'm sorry, you have the Bidens running around with a lot more evidence of pay-to-play politics over the years than anything they're accusing Trump of. And where's the 10 prosecutions? Not James Biden. Why isn't he being tried? Hunter, he is being tried, but not nearly for the amount of things that the evidence would indicate he should be tried for. If his name was Trump, he'd certainly be getting tried for pay to play with Burisma. So yes, this is what lends credibility with a lot of the Trump supporters and fans to the idea that Trump is this hero fighting the deep state. Yeah, they're attacking him and they're going after him, but he really is a scumbag. And a lot of people have a hard time holding two ideas in their minds at the same time. Like, those are not contradictory ideas. He's a scumbag. He's not their scumbag in the way that they would want him to be for him to assume power. So they are selectively prosecuting him for things, many of which he's guilty of, that they would completely look the other way on if it were anybody else.
Yes, yeah. And one of the things that makes the libs so insufferable is they will really revel in this ruling here, which seems to be a witch hunt of a prosecution. And they'll make a big deal over the unified Reich thing, which was a blurred out couple of words in a graphic that a staffer put up and then took down as soon as he was told what it was. They'll act like that is evidence of some, evil conspiracy and dog whistling. And they will, like I said, I'm sure MSNBC's ratings are through the roof right now, given the fact that Trump himself seems like it looks like he seems to think things are going to go badly for him. That's why he came out and said Mother Teresa couldn't beat these charges, right?
What could save him is a hung jury, because you could have someone on that jury who turns around and says this isn't fair.
This is bullshit.
Nope.
Yeah,
nope.
He's not guilty of anything. You could.
That's it.
You absolutely could. I mean, that is a possibility. But they will, criticize Trump for all these reasons. Meanwhile, we're going to criticize Trump later in the show because he promised to set the Free Palestine movement back 25 to 30 years if he gets a second term. He will deport foreign students who protest on campuses.
Right.
He will crush dissent. So I hate Trump for that reason. A real reason.
For the right
Not
reasons.
for fake bullshit reasons that drive, TV viewing on MSNBC.
Not because he didn't put it in Stormy Daniels' ass.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Well, yeah, no. I'm a libertarian in that sense. Yeah. I'm surprised that didn't come up at the convention this week.
I'm very surprised because I think a lot of people are talking about it.
I think the Mises Caucus.
A lot of people are very surprised that in her testimony there was no anal.
Yeah, well, I think the Mises Caucus is more anti-sodomy, and the classical liberal caucus is more anything goes. That's what I hear. That's what Pasta told me before we came on.
They're more classical liberals that way.
Pasta informed me that there was a rift over that. Yeah. So you'll have to ask him. You have to follow up with him. Yeah.
He was saying he was in the bathroom at the Libertarian Convention. He dropped the soap. He just left it there.
He just left it there because he couldn't tell who was in the stall next to him. He didn't know if it was a Mises or a classical. Yeah, exactly.
He couldn't tell. They don't wear buttons.
Right, exactly. It was too risky. All right, let's do some headbanging here. We got 1,094. Seriously, if you guys tweet at Pasta, he's going to be like, what the fuck? We're going to be in trouble. Left arm up, 802 in the Rumble chat. Yeah. Thank you guys all, like I said, very much for being here. Good crowd filing in.
I have decided, I listened to them yesterday. All right, man, we'll do 2112. We'll get the priest. We are the priests of the temples of Syrinx. That's a pretty good little.
Yeah, that's a nice little hook there. I could dig that. I think that makes sense, and that's good. It's a nice lofty goal to hit, right?
Yeah. No. Well, we'll do 1999, and then that'll come up right after it. But
that'll be right on the heels of it. Exactly.
Yeah.
Pat Donahue, thanks for the €10. Is it just me, but when someone says not good, do you instantly think in your inner Trump voice, believe me, not good? Yes.
Pretty much, yes.
Maybe a sign some of us had watched the DD intro one too many times. Yes. Thank you, Pat Donahue. Appreciate that. Okay, let's go on to segment number 2 here. A sequel, a follow-up in the ongoing saga of the robot dog.
Okay, so I kind of famously predicted winged bat soldiers coming out of China. But hey, this is the next best thing. China's military shows off rifle-toting robot dogs. You thought the flame-throwing dogs were cool. We put together a little video. Keaton dropped in the little boogie woogie.
Yes.
Of this dog. Look at that shit. Look at that, man. It is William Gibson's world now, and we're just living in it.
That's right.
Freak out all your neighbors. Be the first kid on your block to own one. I don't think they're selling them commercially yet. So this is a CNN article on this. It looks like something out of the dystopian show Black Mirror. Actually, do you watch Black Mirror, Keaton?
No.
Did they do an episode with these? Or maybe I think I'm thinking of another sci-fi thing that was running on Netflix, another sci-fi anthology thing with Sigourney Weaver in it. But it's just the latest adaptation of robotics for the modern battlefield. During recent military drills with Cambodia, China's military showed off a robot dog with an automatic rifle mounted on its back, essentially turning man's best electronic friend into a killing machine. Military use of robot dogs and, of course, small aerial drones is nothing new. A CCTV, no, that's not closed circuit. That is the state TV of China. A CCTV video from last year also highlighted China's rifle-armed electronic canines in a joint exercise involving the Chinese, Cambodian, Lao, Malaysian, Thai, and Vietnamese militaries held in China last November. In 2020, the U.S. Air Force demonstrated how it used robotic dogs as one link in its advanced battle management system, which uses artificial intelligence and rapid data analytics to detect and counter threats to U.S. military assets. And since the Russian invasion of Ukraine in 2022, drones have become commonplace on the battlefield on the land, sea, and air, with cheap remotely controlled vehicles able to knock out sophisticated military machines like tanks and even warships. The lethal abilities of drones seen on the Ukraine battlefields has shown them to be great equalizers, enabling military forces with small defense budgets to compete with substantially better armed and funded enemies. China is one of the world's leading drone exporters, but last year its Commerce Ministry placed export controls on drone technology, citing the need to safeguard national security and interests. Nevertheless, the robotic dogs seem to be getting plenty of publicity for the People's Liberation Army. And the dogs have been popping up on China's heavily regulated social media for at least a year. According to the state-run Global Times, the presence of the robotic dogs at exercises with foreign militaries indicates an advanced stage of development. Quote, usually a new equipment will not be brought into a joint exercise with another country, so the robot dogs must have reached a certain level of technical maturity, Global Times quoted an unnamed expert as saying. So the Chinese government seems to want people to know about this, because the video we're going to play is from Chinese state TV, and at the end they urge people to share it, which kind of goes back to actually Tusker sent me something we should take a look at. Maybe we'll feature it on Sunday. They interviewed a Malaysian foreign minister, I think he was, and he talked about how the idea of China as an expansionist power is a complete misunderstanding of China. That everything you see them doing is basically China wanting to be left the fuck alone.
Right. That makes sense.
And that kind of makes sense because you want to surprise people with the robot dog, right? Unless you're trying to deter them. Then you want them to know we're going to unleash millions of robot dogs on your soldiers if you mess with us.
Exactly.
So let's see this.
I'm surprised Ukraine's not asking for these.
Yeah, seriously. We probably don't have a lot of them. We can't even build up here, as we will see later.
You think we can get 100,000 robot dogs?
You order Mushu? Not this time.
That was Zelensky. Did that sound Chinese? If it sounded Chinese, it was an error.
It did.
Yeah, that was my mistake then. I was trying to do Ukrainian.
And you're the voice guy.
Yeah.
Stick to Norm. Stick to Norm before you get us canceled.
I was attempting Zelensky.
Just when
I think
YouTube
it came
is
out
reaching
a little Chinese. Out. Yeah, exactly. Came out a little Chinese.
Canceled.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty scary. No, I definitely saw a sci-fi anthology thing. I don't think it was Black Mirror though, where that's exactly what happened. They had like robot military dogs that wound up taking over the world more or less. Like just in the sense of not that they became intelligent, but because of the way they were programmed to kill anything that moves, you couldn't really safely navigate the planet, and they had killed most of the people.
Right.
So here's a
它可以在我
preview.
们的训练当中代替我们的队员先行进行侦查和发现敌人后火力打击，是我们城市攻防作战中的
So
新
he's
成员。
talking about how they can use these for reconnaissance for our podcast listeners. Now they're showing how they're using the drones. Oh, wow. They have the drones attacking with rifles. I've never seen that.
See, I think this could be a beautiful new world where when nations go to war, rather than send men to kill each other, we just, all nations develop an army of robot dogs, and we have the robot dogs fight. And whoever's robot dog army wins, then we make a deal based on that. What do we have to kill each other for? Let's just have robots go and fight our wars.
It would just basically be like the annual MIT robotics contest writ large.
Yeah, exactly.
Whoever wins the MIT robotics contest wins the war.
I mean, that's better than this, better than Ukraine. Imagine you got all these hundreds of thousands of people killed and maimed in Ukraine. What if they just fought it with robot dogs?
It's a point.
Yeah. I like it.
But that's not what's going to happen. They're going to unleash these things on civilian populations and wreak havoc. You're also a pretty long way from anything like this being able to really function autonomously on the battlefield.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true. But, you know, it is interesting because here these are a consumer product, not that shoot bullets, but we have the flame-throwing robot dog here, which is available for consumer use in America. But, yeah, they are putting that to use
because what could go
for
wrong
the state.
with that?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, that's the safe version.
That is once we hit 1,000 patrons, we're buying one.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we're going to need one.
That's our pledge to you.
Yeah, well, that'll be our security for the live events.
Exactly.
We won't have to hire security. We'll just bring a
gonna
flame-throwing dog.
Who needs the Nation of Islam? We could just put a bow tie on it.
That's true. Yeah, put a bow tie on a robot dog, and that's the security. Indeed. I like it. Love the format. Great show. Thanks, guys. Thank you, MS. Appreciate that. Appreciate that very much. Sparky, thanks for the $10. Keaton, be careful about accepting free legal services from your brother. One of my brothers is a lawyer. You'll be helping him move or washing his car for the rest of your life. Yeah, no, that's good advice. Good advice there. But, you know, he's trying to make the transition into journalism now. You know, he just had an op-ed published in The Hill. We want to have him on the show sometime soon to talk about that article because it was inspired by one of the stories that we did. Let's show some love to our Rumblers. Sorry, De Niro, but these charges will elect this scumbag douchebag in November. Yeah, I mean, there is this is what we're going to find out now because it seems like Trump is bracing for a guilty verdict. So now this big question for this past year, really, what happens if he's convicted? How does that move the polls? What does that do to the election? Looks like we could have an answer to that question very soon. And so that's going to be interesting to watch.
Mention, according to one viewer, that episode was Black Mirror.
Oh, okay. Cool. And by the way, to our Rumblers, yes, I know we're usually Rumble only Wednesdays. We changed the show plans up overnight. We won't get into exactly why, but you know, certain shows will be Rumble exclusive on Wednesdays. Certain shows will not be. You know, like for example, if we were gonna do, you know, sodomy jokes about the Libertarian Convention, we'd probably put that over there. But you know, today we mixed it up. So you know, we are on both platforms today. Sexist, schleppist, racist, wastist. I really could care less. Honestly, Trump would have my vote if he wasn't such an all-out Zionist and Israel brown noser. Well, I mean, I would say that kind of goes hand in hand. Like, if you're a Zionist, you're pretty much a racist. Zionism is racism, I would say.
I mean, that's like I would support Genghis Khan if he hadn't buried all those people alive.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
What does that mean?
His Highness, do you want Skynet? Because this is how we get Skynet, Chinese robo dogs. Thanks, His Highness. Hope you're feeling better. That Black Mirror episode says Doc Durkin still haunts me. The underground will need to produce or smuggle a steady supply of EMPs to disable these Terminator dogs. Yeah, I have not watched that show. I have not watched it.
Yeah, that was just basically like they lost control of them and they just started killing everybody.
Wow.
So now this is like that post-apocalyptic world where like you have to hide out from the robot dogs.
Right. All right, folks. Well, let's go on to segment number 3. This was quite amazing. You ever have it? I mean, a lot of us are pretty online people. You ever see like a Twitter image that keeps coming across your feed and it's kind of unclear exactly what it is, so you don't pay much attention until you realize, oh, wow, was that what that was? Well, that's the experience I had overnight, because news breaks here. Nikki Haley writes, "Finish them" on IDF artillery shells during Israel visit. Nikki Haley, the failed Republican presidential nominee, signed Israeli artillery shells with the inscription "Finish them" on a Memorial Day visit to Israel. The former South Carolina governor's graphic display of support came on a trip to Israel's northern border with Lebanon, where she was accompanied by Danny Danon, a former Israeli ambassador to the United Nations and a noted hawkish member of Benjamin Netanyahu's Likud party in the Knesset. Her shell-signing activities came at a time when Israel is engaged in a devastating military offensive in Gaza that so far killed more than 36,000 Palestinians and estimated 15,000 of them children. Okay, so here is the picture. First, I thought she was sort of polishing her dildo collection for when the husband is on a tour. So that, when I looked closer,
according to reporting, she goes for the real thing when he's on tour.
That's right. Well, that's what made me think twice. That's what made me look into it, right? So she. Yeah, right. So here she is, writing little Valentine notes on these missiles, on these shells. "Finish them. America loves Israel always." Nikki Haley. There she is, signing those. Wow. Talking to reporters, Haley was unapologetic, criticizing Joe Biden's administration for temporarily withholding weapons as a means of discouraging an Israeli attack on the southern Gaza city of Rafah and aiming barbs at the ICC, which is seeking Netanyahu's arrest, and the ICJ, International Court of Justice, which is considering charges of genocide against Israel. "What America needs to understand is if Israel's fighting our enemies, how can we not help them?" said Haley, whose missile message also carried the words, "America loves Israel." "The sure way to not help Israel is to withhold weapons. The sure way to not help Israel is to praise the ICC, the ICJ, or any of those that are condemning Israel instead of condemning what happens. America needs to do whatever Israel needs and stop telling them how to fight this war. You are either a friend or not a friend." Yeah, that's how international law is supposed to work. You're either with us or against us. Yeah, that's a great legal theory at work there.
Only Sith deal in absolutes.
Yeah, right, exactly. Haley, like Danon, a former ambassador to the UN, last week said she would vote for Trump in November's presidential election despite having previously denounced him as dangerous and unfit to serve. Danon proudly recorded Haley's show of support, which also included a trip to southern Israel to meet survivors of Hamas's October 7th attack, in which about 1,200 people were killed and another 253 were taken hostage, on his X account. According to one Israeli peace activist, Alan Lee Green, Haley also visited settlements in the West Bank, which are not recognized under international law. That quotes the tweet, but I'll just read it here. I have the source. "Dear Americans, Nikki Haley visited us today. She went to the West Bank settlements and then went to sign a bomb. Finish them. Just disgusting. Can you please take her back? We already have one Ben Gvir, and we don't need your filthy death-promoting politicians as well. Thanks." Yes. Dr. Omar Suleiman, "While Americans watch Israel burn Gaza alive and Palestinian children are beheaded, Nikki Haley writes love notes on bombs that drop on civilians. Let the world bear witness to your moral depravity. No lies detected," and I made this little meme. In America, this is considered moderate. Let's not forget, Nikki Haley was considered by both left and right-wing media to be the moderate alternative to Donald Trump. She's the cool-headed one. She's the sane,
She's
rational
the reasonable one. Yeah, the one the
who
media
says,
loved.
The one they loved. To hell with international law. Fuck the ICC and the ICJ. You're either our friend or you're not a friend. That's her
Mika
theory.
actually offered her a deep, dark check right on Morning Joe.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yes, almost gave her the nice, deep, dark check. But yes, Nikki Haley propped up as the moderates in the race until she lost to Donald Trump. And so, you know, we had this footage lying around. Some of you guys may have seen this already. Most of you probably have not, since our audience has grown by about 3 or 4 times since we first played this. But this was on my trip to New Hampshire covering the Republican primary. I spoke with some Nikki Haley supporters outside 2 rallies. And these are the nice people who think of her as this nice, gentle, moderate, common sense loving woman. Here they are, praising the moderate in the race. You out here, we're at the Keene Country Club at the Nikki Haley events, and what brings you out here today?
See Nikki Haley and support her.
So your mind's made up. You're here to support Nikki Haley.
Yes, I am. She has great foreign policy.
Great foreign policy.
Experience.
So
she brings a calmness.
So which of the wars that she's backed is you feel like the most worthwhile? Ukraine?
The most calming.
Yes.
Yeah. Why is that?
I'm just not going to get into a lot of detail.
I'm totally voting for Nikki Haley. I've been a supporter of hers since she was a governor of South Carolina, and I like her views on the Middle East.
Right, so you've been with her since Afghanistan, since Iraq.
Yeah.
Right.
Afghanistan, Iraq, and I followed her mostly when she was the ambassador to the United Nations, and I think she's probably the clearest thinker of any of our ambassadors to the United Nations. She sees the crap that goes on in this world and she calls it out.
She's very consistent too. I mean, she gets points for that. You know, Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Ukraine, you know, now Israel. You know, she's unwavering in her support for those kind of military interventions. What's your opinion? What do you think is like, which one of those is your favorite one?
Issues in terms of? I mean, I think
in terms of the wars I just mentioned.
My favorite war.
Yeah, which one is your favorite?
Well, no war, of course, is the
Well,
ultimate.
she likes them.
She doesn't like war. If you listen to her, she says that her whole strategy, her whole
she doesn't like war. She writes Valentines on bombs.
Policy, foreign policy, is to try to prevent war, and it means to show support for democracy throughout the world.
She's moderate Republican, and I think we need a Republican in there, but somebody that's sensible and kind of middle of the road.
Really. What do you think about her foreign policy?
I think it's logical.
Logical?
Yeah, I mean, I wish she was more supportive. Well, she is supportive of Ukraine. I wish she would understand the problems in Gaza more, because I think it's really terrible what.
Yeah, this was the one anti-genocide Nikki Haley supporter I ran into in 2 rally crowds.
Israelis are doing.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I think, the Republicans are all for the Israelis no matter what happens, and I think that's unfortunate. But
I think it's unfortunate, too, and most of the Democrats are for the Israelis as well.
Yeah, and I just think people aren't seeing what's happening there, and it's just been horrible.
I think that she really has fantastic foreign affairs experience.
When you say foreign affairs, you're talking about,
international.
Right. So Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Ukraine, Israel.
Yeah.
We're very supportive of all those.
Absolutely.
What about in the general election? What are you thinking if she's not the nominee?
God help us. God help us all, because I don't know what's going to happen then.
I'm writing in Biden. So.
You're writing in Joe Biden in the primary tomorrow. Have you been to a Trump rally?
Years ago, I went to years ago, but I'm passing on him, yeah.
Yeah, because those are pretty raucous. I went to one last night just to cover it, and yeah, totally different scene. And they might be getting a little nervous about Nikki Haley, because a few of these guys had some nasty things to say. There was this one guy, he was pretty drunk, and he was rowdy, and I don't want to repeat what he said, but he called her an effing whore.
It's a different group than the people in line here, right?
Yeah, this is a much different crowd. Yeah, you guys are much more mellow. Yeah, they're calmer.
You're an asshole.
I just had to. I had to say that to them. I had to bring in. For those who didn't know, if you watched our full coverage of the New Hampshire thing the night before, I was at the Trump rally, and a guy really did. That Nikki Haley, you fucking whore. And so I just had to bring that up to this nice group of women. Just don't kill the messenger. Don't kill the messenger.
I am looking forward to when they decide that they have got just the right drug cocktail to throw Joe Biden out on a rally stage. I am very much looking forward to going and interviewing the crowd.
Yes. Yeah, indeed.
We're keeping an eye out. I'm sure it'll get a lot of press because he doesn't do any.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, I mean, her rally crowd, it's all PMC, nice. Some are libs, some are conservatives, but it's all, people who would be in good standing at a country club. I mean, the first rally I went to of hers was literally at a country club. And so, yeah, she is perceived as this level-headed, sane, pragmatic statesperson. And there she is. I love this. I started this because this is going to be the title of the audio podcast. Calmness like a bomb. Calm like a bomb. That'll be the title of this. Yeah, indeed. Good call, Bender Rodriguez.
Yeah, well, it's that great Dark Knight Joker monologue where he says people will accept anything as long as it's part of the plan.
Yes,
that's the thing with Nikki Haley. This kind of psychopath is part of the plan.
Exactly.
Someone signing Israeli bombs is part of the plan. This vulgar New York real estate billionaire is not part of the plan. That's the issue. It's not that Trump is a greater threat or more monstrous. It's that he's not part of the plan. To have a guy who goes up on stage, as he did when I was at the rally, and starts talking about the good old days when if you invaded, to the victor go the spoils, and you stole the resources, and we're so stupid now because we leave without stealing the resources. You're not supposed to say that part out loud. That's their issue. That's the issue.
Exactly. But, she falls within the Overton window, which exists between, in the minds of these PMCs, you have the Weekly Standard on the right and the Atlantic on the left. And as long as your ideas fall within that window, then you're welcome. You could do something as psychopathic as writing a Valentine on a bomb, right? I mean, look at that. In America, that's moderate. That's a moderate in this country. That's a centrist. That's a pragmatist.
That's what's funny, and some of them certainly were. But the crowd that you interviewed, they read like Democrats, really.
Yeah,
I mean that's how they came across. I mean there's how much difference is there between a Republican who supports Nikki Haley and a Democrat who supports Biden?
That's
how
why
much daylight is there?
That's why I put that last woman in. That last person who I broke the news to about the guy who was rude about Haley, she was just there with friends. She was actually a Democrat who was writing in Joe Biden in the New Hampshire primary, but her friends were there to support Haley. And so she came because that's fine. Nikki Haley, I wouldn't go to a Trump rally. That's out of bounds.
Right.
But Nikki Haley, she's cool.
Right, exactly.
We can have reasonable disagreements. I'm boycotting Trump rallies, but I'll go to hers. That's why I included that. Yeah.
This is something we can agree with our MAGA friends. If you find Nikki Haley morally acceptable, but you find Donald Trump morally reprehensible, you're a fucking moron.
Yeah, you're an idiot. Exactly. And but it's true. I mean, that's how she is perceived. And don't forget, she did this as Israel was bombing Rafah. That massacre, the tent massacre, that happened over the weekend. That's when she was there doing this. Yeah, this wasn't like from 3 or 4 months ago. No, that was Memorial Day weekend.
That was part of our statement, complaining about holding back Israel from its invasion of Rafah by withholding weapons. We're not giving them enough weapons.
Yeah.
And actually, I think I shared this with you, that the headline dropped that that was an American bomb. Like now photos close up of the bomb that did that to the camps showed that it was American munitions.
The U.S. bomb. Yep. I wonder where that bomb that she signed will land. I wonder how many kids that will take out. But she's sensible.
What kind of a sick fucking psychopathic cunt do you have to be in the middle of, even if you support Israel or whatever, man, in the middle of the horrors being visited on the Palestinian people to go do something like that? And in what I consider related, this is something I've kind of become more aware of since my trip to India. Hey, man, why do you think Modi's in power? He's a Hindu nationalist. A lot of Indians are extremely anti-Muslim. There's a long history of conflict in that country between those groups. And Modi at this point is making an open appeal. So if we're going to say, well, Netanyahu reflects the people who elected him, nobody's saying the elections are rigged in India, right? So that reflects Modi's anti-Muslim attitudes, reflect enough of the Indian population that he's been in power for quite a while. This is what's so vapid about the idea of white people as being uniquely racist or uniquely prone to colonizing. You have to really just not know about any countries outside the West to think that. That's just human. It's just human nature. Power dynamics, people in power trying to suppress the people who don't have power, scapegoating them. That's just it's a foul dimension of human nature, but you'll find it anywhere you go in the world.
Yeah, well, she is certainly an example. She is now for decades.
It was the same with Tulsi, man.
Decades,
same
yeah.
with Tulsi.
Well, Tulsi, yeah, definitely has a hang up there. There's no doubt about that. Because I mean, with Tulsi, I think you can more accurately ascribe it to that, the sort of Hindu nationalist upbringing, because she was anti-war until this happened. And she clearly has a fucking hang up about this. Right. Nikki Haley, every war is a good war. She's never seen a war she didn't like. Right. But with Tulsi, yeah, there's definitely a dimension of that. No doubt about that.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, man, to do something this fucking crazy and tone deaf. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
But people I know in that community they tend to be Zionist because they see them as fighting the same enemy.
Yeah, sure. Art Elect 54. There was a Robot Dog Black Mirror episode called Metalhead, one of the most badass episodes of all time.
Yeah, it was Black Mirror. Yep.
Awesome. Let's see here. We're human beings with the blood of a million savage years on our hands, but we can stop it. We can admit that we're killers, but we're not going to kill today.
Yes.
Thank you, His
Thank
Highness.
Thank you. Yes.
Back from the road, saw an article in People's Daily with a PLA soldier walking patrol in the Horn of Africa alongside one of these dogs fitted with a machine gun. Yes, this has been getting out there. They've been getting out there.
Well, they wanted to get out there. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly. Right. They want to use that as a flex. Don't fuck with us. Flex. Miserable Lib TX from Texas, I assume. If I had any uncertainty before, I'm now definitely convinced this woman is a psychopath. Yes, indeed. Indeed. Let's see. This is from Ranger Biker. Sorry, I didn't get your name in there. To all the morally bankrupt ghouls, genocide doesn't require minimum deaths per capita. Yes, genocide isn't just quantitative, it's qualitative. Exactly. That's one of the reasons why it's tricky to prove legally. In this case, it's one of the reasons why it's not so tricky to prove legally. I mean, you're absolutely right. The death count is not the relevant metric. It is you make a place unlivable for a group. You destroy the conditions of life for a group.
And remember when Israel was so vociferously denying that it would attack a hospital at the beginning of this.
Right.
That is very much a parallel to all of their history, where they have constantly committed crimes against humanity and made them commonplace and palatable and acceptable and complicated. Right. At the beginning, that was no, of course we wouldn't. And now they're just doing it all the time.
Yep.
Now they're just wiping out how many 15 hospitals I think they've attacked now.
Yep. Well,
were those all errant Hamas bombs now, like they were arguing?
Yeah. Exactly. All right. Well, let's do another Donald Trump story here. Moving right along. Trump told donors he will crush pro-Palestinian protests, deport demonstrators. Just when we were falling back in love. Former President Donald Trump promised to crush pro-Palestinian protests on college campuses, telling a room full of donors, a group that he joked included 98% of my Jewish friends. It's funny that he would crack a joke in that room. Yeah, 98% of my Jewish friends in this room. I'm friends with the rich ones.
Jew? No, not did you eat, but Jew eat.
that he would expel student demonstrators from the United States, according to participants in the roundtable event with him in New York. One thing I do is any student that protests, I throw them out of the country. You know, there are a lot of foreign students. As soon as they hear that, they're going to behave. Free speech advocate here, Trump said on May 14th, according to donors at the event.
Yeah, no, he's fighting the deep state.
Yeah.
It's a champion of the people.
Yeah. When one of the donors complained that many of the students and professors protesting on campuses could one day hold positions of power in the United States, Trump called the demonstrators part of a radical revolution that he vowed to defeat. He praised the New York Police Department for clearing the campus at Columbia University and said other cities needed to follow suit, saying it has to be stopped now. Well, if you get me elected, and you should really be doing this, if you get me reelected, we're going to set that movement back 25 or 30 years, he said, according to the donors who spoke on the condition of anonymity to detail a private event. Trump has waffled publicly about whether Israel should continue its war in Gaza, saying, get it over with, get back to peace, and stop killing people. Major Republican donors have lobbied him in recent months to take a stronger stance backing Israel and its Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. They want him to go over and sign the bombs, the way Nikki Haley did. That would have been normal, right? The private New York meeting offers new insight into his current thinking. His current thinking is to say what the crowd in front of him wants him to say. That seems more and more and more to be his only way of thinking ever. That's why he takes two positions here. He'll say they have to get it over with and stop the killing. Well, get it over with means kill people quickly so that you don't have to do it anymore. Stop the killing means a ceasefire. It sounds to me like he deliberately phrases things in this ambiguous way so that he can be different things to different people, which as a politician, this is why I always say, he's not a good businessman. He's a good politician because that's a good political trick to have up your sleeve. Right? That what you say means things to different people so that they project onto you what they want to see in you.
Right.
And they vote for you. And that's especially effective when your opponents are as sickeningly horrible as the Democrats.
Well, that was one of the most striking moments at Braga, where he started out saying, yeah, in the old days, when you invaded a country, they say to the victor, go the spoils. Right. And now we're so stupid, we just leave. But why you have to drop all these bombs on people's heads? It's terrible. Right. You should be able to take care of this with a phone call. So he's making just a straight out imperialist argument, and then he makes a complete dove.
Yeah, then he's John
anti-war
Lennon.
Argument in the same in the same paragraph. So whatever your inclination, you could hear if you're one of these people. Yeah, why don't we get the resources after we go in there? If you're one of those people, you heard that. And if you're like, yeah, Trump's fighting the deep state and he wants peace and he didn't get us into any wars. So you hear that. You hear the second part.
Exactly.
And he just, one of the most remarkable things to me was the way he just kept playing on that American #1 thing. Yeah, he would win in doubt. You know, if you watch Honeymooners, the Honeymooners was basically improv. They would give them the scenario for the scene and what had to happen in the scene. And as a result, because they're improving, that's why they both have, Gleason and Carney, they both have certain bits they fall back on when they get lost in the scene. One of these days, they'll fall back. And you can see they're working through trying to get back to the scene. Trump, basically, when he gets lost, when it's meandering, when he's not sure what to say, yeah, we're winners. We're all winners. We're going to win so much. You're not going to believe how much we're going to win. That's his moment in the improv where he has to recover his train of thought.
Yeah, there was one time in that rally where he asked somebody off stage for something. You could tell he stepped away from the mic, and I couldn't make out what he said. Hey, can you get me something like that? And then he was clearly waiting on someone to do something before he went on with the speech. And then he launches into that riff, Oh, what a crowd. A lot of love here, He just vamps on that.
Well, and you could see, and he's just a pathological liar. I mean, you really saw that when the woman passed out. He's just standing there saying, yeah, no, it's tough. Some people waited 2 days to get a
woman
absolutely no substance to that claim at all whatsoever. And he does that constantly. Like, is he a pathological liar?
And just a sociopathic reflex, I'm sorry, to a woman passes out of heat exhaustion and you immediately, not more than 10 seconds later, hey, this is a chance to make a point about how many people showed up. This is an opportunity for me to aggrandize myself and lie that people waited 2 days to get here. Yeah.
Now you, in an accelerationist Andy Kaufman performance art spirit, appreciate that in many ways Trump is the reality of politicians with the mask ripped off, and that's really what drives them crazy. What, Joe Biden's not a pathological liar? He's been fucking lying about his civil rights activism for fucking decades, and he keeps confessing that it's not true, and then he does it again. He just did it a couple of weeks ago. Once again, made a false claim about doing something in civil rights, and he never did. So is Joe Biden. It's just you've never seen anyone who makes it as obvious as Donald Trump. That's what really bothers them. If it was the lying, they'd go after Joe Biden. Joe Biden in many ways lies about things of more substance.
Yeah.
You don't see Trump up there going, yeah, when I was marching with Dr. King and that time that I tried to see Nelson Mandela and they wouldn't let me in. Joe Biden literally has said these things.
Oh, yeah.
Falsely.
Yep, indeed. This goes on, though. The private New York meeting offers new insight into his current thinking. Speaking to wealthy donors behind closed doors, Trump said that he supports Israel's right to continue its war on terror and boasted of his White House policies toward Israel. The former president didn't mention Netanyahu, who he resents for acknowledging Joe Biden's victory in 2020 and hasn't spoken to in years. Trump's campaign did not respond to detailed questions about the Washington Post's reporting. When President Trump is back in the Oval Office, Israel will once again be protected, Iran will go back to being broke, terrorists will be hunted down, and the bloodshed will end, Caroline Leavitt, the campaign's national press secretary, wrote in an email. Trump has repeatedly claimed in public statements and in interviews that Hamas's October 7th attack on Israel, which sparked the Gaza war, would have never happened if he were president. But he has also criticized Israel's approach to the war, albeit in somewhat confusing terms. In a March interview with the Israeli newspaper Israel Hayom, Trump said, "You have to finish up your war. To finish it up, you got to get it done." Again, this could mean different things to different people. In April, he argued the war was bad for Israel's image, telling conservative talk show radio host Hugh Hewitt that Israel is absolutely losing the PR war. Trump took a different tone in the meeting with donors. Instead of saying it was time to wrap up the war, he said he supported Israel's right to continue the attack on Gaza. But I'm one of the only people that says that now, and a lot of people don't even know what October 7th is, Trump said. That's a hell of a thing to just rattle off. Trump repeatedly listed for the donors everything he believed he had done for Israel in the White House. He moved the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem, bucking decades of U.S. policy. He recognized the Golan Heights, which Israel seized from Syria in 1967, as an integral part of Israel after what he said was a 5-minute conversation with David Friedman, his ambassador there. He also polled the room if they liked Friedman.
Do you like Friedman?
Do you like Friedman?
Everybody likes Friedman here, right?
So I did the Golan Heights. You know, that's worth $2 trillion, they said, that piece, if you put it in real estate terms. But it's worth more than that. It is, Trump said, according to the donors present. So I did the Golan Heights. That's $2 trillion. Yeah. Israel, Trump argued, needs his help. Street demonstrations for Israel get smaller crowds than his rallies, he said. In Washington, and particularly in Congress, Israel is losing its power. It's incredible. Trump and Netanyahu's relationship will continue to prosper and flourish if they're both in office at the same time again, Matthew Brooks, chief executive of the Republican Jewish Coalition, said in an interview. He's giving the Israelis a blank check to go in and do what they need to do to destroy Hamas and eliminate the threat in Gaza. And what he's also saying, which is actually true, he said, but do it quickly because time is not Israel's ally right now, Brooks said. So let's take a poll of the audience, okay? Just because it's easy to debate back and forth in different interpretations of Trump's statements. Does anybody really believe Trump is going to turn his back on Israel if he gets in? Does anybody doubt that he's going to crack down on student protests should they happen, which they probably will once he's back in office? That seems like the kind of promise he'll probably keep. I sense he'll probably keep that promise. And to spin this, and like I said, this is not This is not an endorsement of Joe Biden by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not voting for Joe Biden. Wouldn't think of it in a million years. But I think it is important to be clear-eyed about how fucked we are in terms of this 2024 outcome. Because, you know, if you kid yourself into thinking that there's some plot in motion at the Trump campaign against the deep state and the war machine, it's just absurd. He tells Tim Pool at the convention, yeah, I'm giving serious consideration to pardoning Julian Assange. As if it wasn't your administration that prosecuted him in the first place and then declined to pardon him on the way out. Right. And he told Candace Owens, I didn't do that because he revealed some very bad things about us.
Right.
You know, he's a big shit talker. He's a big shit talker when it comes to all that stuff. You know, I mean, his policy on campus speech is going to be exactly Biden's policy on campus speech. He will probably be more hostile in his rhetoric toward the protesters.
Right.
Yeah. But in terms of the reality, I mean, the same cops are going to be cracking the same heads under Donald Trump as under Joe Biden.
Well, remember how he approached Black Lives Matter protests. And now imagine he doesn't have the media and the liberal class against him, but for him.
Exactly, yes.
Favoring it. There will be absolutely no restraint to what he wants to do. And once again, libs, I don't think we could say to our liberal friends, I don't think they watch us. We do have some MAGA friends. I don't think we have any lib friends. Remember, we've been warning about all of the police actions that the Patriot Act makes possible. If you get a president like Trump deciding to crack down on protests under some of the more terrifying provisions of the Patriot Act, without the liberal establishment being against those actions, people could be getting Guantanamo-ed. Yeah, we have evidence they're working with Hamas.
Of course, yeah. Yep. They can call you a terror. Yeah, they can do exactly what
send
the
you to
Patriot
a black
Act allows
site.
them to do. Yep.
Yep.
That's it. Yeah, no, just a pretty desperate and dire situation. And yeah, I mean, that is pretty terrifying stuff. Like I said, that's why I don't like Donald Trump. I don't like Donald Trump because of stories like that. Not because of the Stormy Daniels payments or some blurred out words that appeared in an ad before they were taken down. Like, this is the kind of shit you don't hear too much about. Why? Because as Russell said, the media's generally on his side about this. They may think, that's a little extreme to threaten deportation, but it probably won't get to that point. Just like when he said, we're going to throw protesters in jail for 10 years for defacing a statue, right? You draw a dick and balls on Thomas Jefferson during the George Floyd protest. He's like, we're going to lock you up for 10 years. Well, no, he's not going to do that, right? That's just chest pounding. But he did have protesters swept off the street and thrown into the back of a van. I mean, we saw that on camera, right?
Yeah, I mean, it turns out it's probably not true, but I think the idea that he was into water sports really played with a lot of the public, too. You know, they shouldn't have knocked that down.
Which one?
You know, that he got peed on by prostitutes.
Oh, the water sports.
That was very rock and roll.
That was rock and roll. Yeah, indeed. He could use that.
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed. That got knocked down. You know, having gone to that rally, it was pretty much what I expected. I have more sympathy for the people who are just economically desperate. You know, they're just desperate. They just want to hear what they want to hear. They want to believe what they want to believe. But when you're talking about people, and they're out there, who make a foreign policy case for Donald Trump, come on. I mean, there's that element of people want to believe that there's a good guy out there that they can root for, and that there's somebody they can get behind. This is why it's hard for people to find their way to a post-duopoly posture, because that's very challenging to accept that the entire system is so corrupt that you kind of have to just fight it from scratch. That's very daunting. It's easier to believe, oh, he knew how to build the skating rink.
Right.
That's our guy. He's going to fix the country.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a lot easier than, wow, man, I got to take personal responsibility for my politics. I have to really think it through. I have to educate myself. I have to connect with other people that are really trying to challenge the system. It's much easier to just say, Trump,
Right.
or Biden, right? But it's all fucking nonsense.
Yes, indeed. Blue Swirl, thanks for the $2 for your legal fees, but don't actually give it to your brother. Thank you. Thank you very much. American election politics and a Jim Jones cult Kool-Aid tasting event. What is the difference again?
Right,
Yeah,
right.
There you go.
It is. It's
Yep.
it's all cults. It's all cults, and it's designed to be that way. It's all just advertising and propaganda.
Yeah, yeah. I want to read this one because this was for the last segment. Trump asked off stage for The Snake, the poem he read shortly in the
I
speech.
thought
Okay,
that's what
he
you were
was
talking about. Yeah, and I included a little clip of that.
Yeah, but then before, because he realized he didn't have it, so that's what he's screaming
Yeah.
off stage to the guy to get.
Yeah,
I need
yeah,
the snake.
yeah.
Give me the
And
snake.
they handed him the papers. Yeah.
There you go.
I am gonna tomorrow. I guess I'll give you the full Trump speech. So we will have that available for anyone who wants to watch it.
Yeah, we'll put the whole thing up on the channel. Sparky, do the robot dogs hump your leg? Yeah.
That would be funny if you had that option.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. A robot dog, like a blow up doll, only a robot dog. You know.
Well, I promise you, they'll wind up, if these become like consumer things, they're gonna wind up designing robot dogs that'll fuck you.
Yeah, yeah, I can't imagine that's too far off. At the rate we're going. Ruthless criticism, thanks to the $5. That drone has better trigger discipline than most 2A folk. Yeah, that seemed pretty precise. There. Here we go. When I was a kid, says Sparky, in the 1960s in the U.S., Indians and Pakistanis were considered white people, so were Arabs. Aside from the visual descriptions and medical vulnerabilities, the concept of race is silly, in my opinion.
I mean, is that true? Because at that time, Italians, Jews, and Irish were not considered white. They were considered ethnic white. So really, they considered Arabs and Indians white at that? I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true. Maybe you were in a particularly open-minded neighborhood, but if you look at even portrayals of those groups in fiction and in animation, it doesn't seem that way.
Iranians, Persians too, says Sparky. Interesting.
Yeah, I don't think so.
We'll have to check the record on that. To be fair, says Back from the Road,
I mean,
Biden doesn't
just
actually
go back
know.
and watch a Disney movie, man.
Yeah, there you go. Biden doesn't actually know what October 7th was. His dad does, though. You should have Dr. Omar Suleiman featured from that tweet, Palestinian-American scholar and civil rights activist raised from New Orleans. Oh, I didn't know he was raised in New Orleans. Also, check out Anti-Imperialist Podcast, Colonial Outcasts. Thank you for that recommendation. Appreciate that very much. All right, folks, we got more show to do, but why don't we take a quick timeout here for a word from our sponsors. So you can become a member of this program by going to patreon.com/DoDissidents. Perks of membership include your name up in lights here on the scroll. You also get call-in access to our weekly post-show Q&As, which are every Sunday night after the show. And you get access to 2 supporter streams per month, the second of which will be tomorrow. So doubleheader tomorrow. Doubleheader. For those who don't wake up for the morning show, if you're a member, we'll be on at 2 p.m. taking calls and doing some bonus material in the afternoon. So we are putting in an old 9 to 5 shift tomorrow, 2 p.m. Those patrons, just a heads up, because those streams take place on Rumble, and I can only schedule one Rumble stream at a time. You will not get the email invite to that patron show until after the conclusion of the morning show. But you will get it. You have my word on that. So you'll probably come to you around noon or so. But make a time to be there, 2 o'clock tomorrow, second supporter stream of the month. And to get access to that, go to patreon.com/DoDissidents, DoDissidents.substack.com, or you can join our locals, DoDissidents.locals.com if you're watching on Rumble right now. Easy way to join that locals is to click that bright red join button underneath the video player. Also, we got to push our memberships because our live show is coming up in New York City. We will be live in New York City on June 9th at 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. And those shows are both sold out. But if you want to watch them live on the computer or on your phone or on your TV or wherever you get your Rumble app, you can sign up to become a member, and you will have those live performances live streamed. So that is an extra perk of becoming a member. We are looking very much forward to seeing you dissidents in person, but those who cannot be there in person, if you sign up for just $5 a month, you help support this program, and you get all the perks I mentioned, plus access to live stream the live show. Our supporters are the backbone of the program. We say that all the time because it's true.
If you can't be in New York, you can at least join the show.
Join the show, indeed. And we will be taking some chats during the show. So it is a possibility your Rumble rant will be read to the live audience.
It is rumored that Menachem Dabular will be making an appearance. My great-grandfather, the inventor
we are
of
negotiating a rate with Menachem now. Yeah,
we are negotiating. He charges more if he has to break dance.
Yeah, and also, the subway fare went up too, so he accounts for that.
Yeah, it's $2.90 now.
$2.90. I was going to ask, what is it now? Yeah,
I think it's $2.90.
Yeah, all right, that makes sense. That's actually kind of merciful compared to what it could have been, because when I was living in New York, it was like up to like $2.20 something, and that was 7 years ago. So you think they could have hit you harder.
Well, it's very weird. For the first time in many years, I'm not buying monthly passes because I'm not a tour guide anymore.
Right, you're not a tour guide anymore. Right, indeed. All right, we got a couple more stories for you guys today. This is a terrible one. U.S.'s Kirby offended by Rafah charred bodies question. What is that question? Well, this is from Al Mayadeen. I think that's how you pronounce the name of the outlet. They were the only outlet that actually focused in on this particular question in this press conference. I saw a lot of American and Western outlets talk about the conference in sort of vague terms, but they zero in on what I thought was the most important and the most outrageous part of this press conference. U.S. National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby relayed to reporters that the U.S. was not turning a blind eye to the murder of Palestinian civilians a mere day after 2 U.S. officials told Axios that the Biden administration is still assessing whether the blatant murdering of displaced people in makeshift camps is a violation of Biden's red line. Kirby stated the Israelis have said this is a tragic mistake, referring to the Rafah massacre, which killed over 45 people and injured hundreds after Israel bombed tents in the area it called safe. Vice President Kamala Harris, speaking at a ceremonial event in Washington, called the Israeli airstrike on Sunday beyond tragic after it caused a fire in a tent camp in Rafah, killing tens of Palestinians, many of whom were burnt to death. When questioned about whether the recent ground operations in Rafah would lead to the U.S. withdrawing military aid, Kirby affirmed, "I believe that's what I've been saying here," without elaborating as to how. And so we are going to now go to the video. CBS posts this exchange. Here's John Kirby's press conference.
I don't know. I can't speak to what he has absolutely been. He's been.
Sorry.
Has the president seen the images?
I don't know. I can't speak to what he has absolutely been. He's been kept apprised throughout the weekend on this.
So you're saying the tent encampment that was first struck is considered a densely populated area?
The whole area of Rafah, Ed, is densely populated. Now, there has been 1 million or so who have evacuated Rafah proper, but it's not like they're going all that far away. The whole area is densely populated.
So how does this not violate the red line that the president laid out?
As I said, we don't want to see a major ground operation. We haven't seen that at this point.
How many more charred corpses does he have to see before the president considers a change in policy?
We don't want to see a single more innocent life taken, and I kind of take a little offense at the question.
Oh, is that right? You're offended.
He's offended.
You're offended by the question.
Yeah. This reporter crossed a line there by describing events accurately.
Yeah, by describing events as they happen. That's offensive to John Kirby. Wow. Let's hear that one more time.
Before the president considers a change in policy.
We don't want to see a single more innocent life taken. And I kind of take a little offense at the question. No civilian casualties is the right number of civilian casualties. And this is not something that we've turned a blind eye to, nor has it been something we've ignored or neglected to raise with our Israeli counterparts, including, Ed, this weekend as a result of this particular strike. Now, they're investigating it, so let them investigate it and see what they come up with.
Rafah was the red line. Now, you're going to say that because they didn't go in on the ground and kill 45 people in tents, that this doesn't cross a red line because technically they did it using missiles from the air? Is that the distinction you're going to make? And you're going to get offended at his invocation of charred corpses? Because that's what happened. People were burnt alive in tents at a refugee camp. And you're going to say, well, this doesn't cross our red line because what? They didn't go in and shoot them. They did it from the air. That's that's what you're counting on here?
Well, and the media, which, let's face it, they don't just report. They certainly have a point of view that they're not shy about conveying. And I don't think I've ever seen the media in modern times this conflicted about what point of view it's going to assume on an issue. They were doing this right up until they decided to go after the student protesters again and scapegoat them and make it all about their supposed anti-Semitism. And now they've swung back. You know, it's interesting. I've said I think there's a generational conflict going on in these newsrooms. Somebody who gets in that room is usually a careerist and a climber. That's how you get in that room for CBS. Somebody at CBS has to be taking the leash off because we saw how fast they snapped into a completely oppositional position in regards to the protesters all at once. The whole media all at once decided to go after the student protesters. Anyone who thinks they don't get calls from the White House that then defines their news coverage, look at how fast that change was. After the WCK kitchen attack, all of them going, what do you mean? Joe Scarborough screaming at their finance minister, you were funding Hamas. This went on for a couple of weeks. And then we think the Biden administration made some kind of deal with Israel to not go full bore on Iran and start World War III potentially.
Right, and that was at the time that Iran hit the Iron Dome with the missiles.
Right, right. We made it. All right. We've got to deal with Israel. Go after the protesters again. And on a dime. In one day, all of a sudden, the whole media complex turned. And now they're turning back. It's interesting. So you have to ask, is this just this is what I suspect. There's a younger generation in the newsroom reared on post-colonial studies for whom this is just a bit too much to stomach. And some of those people are producers and are allowing these kinds of questions to get through, while then you'll see these inside media anonymous source pieces about how higher ups within organizations like the New York Times are looking for leakers and getting very upset about what some of the reporters are saying and doing. It seems like you're having a war in the media. I think that's why you're getting such a weird, conflicted way of covering this.
It is. It is a very weird way of covering this because, I mentioned this, about a month ago, right when they started attacking the campus protesters again, right? I said, okay, now this is like back to November 2023. It's like we went through this whole cycle and now we're starting a cycle again, and we are starting the cycle again. It seems like now we are completing it on an expedited timeline because here we are just a few weeks after the cops came in and cracked heads on the campuses. We're back to this place. Meanwhile, the red line is not a red line. Meanwhile, the situation in Gaza seems to get worse and worse and worse. And we have more from Kirby here in a second.
But the president doesn't have like a personal limit to this?
The president has been very clear and very direct about what our expectations are for Israeli operations in Rafah specifically, but in Gaza writ large. We don't support, we won't support a major ground operation in Rafah, and we've, again, been very consistent on that. And the president said that should that occur, then it might make him have to make different decisions in terms of support. We haven't seen that happen at this point.
Why not have him come out and say that himself?
The president has been speaking to leaders throughout the region on a regular basis. He has been addressing you guys in various fora. You've got plenty of opportunities to talk to the president, including, I might add, in a press conference last week.
It's just such a disgraceful way of putting it. The guy asks, is there anything that's just over the president's line? What does he say here?
The president has been...
How does he phrase it here?
But the president doesn't have like a personal limit?
The president doesn't have a personal limit. That's the way he phrased it, which was a good question, because that question implies that, look, you can parse an invasion on the ground versus a bombardment from the air. That doesn't really say much about your personal limit. As a person, as a human being, where does Joe Biden draw the line saying enough is enough when it comes to carnage? Okay? This question of how are people killed, that doesn't really address what his personal limit is. And Kirby says, well, he's been very clear what his personal limit is. His personal limit is a ground invasion. That's not a personal limit. That's not a personal limit. Like, if you tell Israel, we don't want you going in on the ground, let's say they agree, right? Let's say, okay, fine, we won't put troops on the ground. We'll just hit them from the air. Is that better? That could potentially be even worse.
Right.
Because you're even less discriminate from the air. That's how a bomb lands in a refugee camp, right? So that's just a non-answer. That's just a complete dodge.
Yeah, well, these spokespeople for the White House, they're like tobacco lobbyists. They have no ethics. They have no morals. They're getting paid to go out and say whatever they're told to say, regardless of what the truth is. That's his job. That's his job. And I'm sure very much like a lawyer, they justify when they defend the guilty as well. It's a job, and it's up to the American voters to decide who they vote for, and this is my job, and somebody has to do this job, and I do it with the best of my ability. How else do you sleep at night in the middle of a genocide, going up and running cover for the administration's clear pro-genocide policy? They're just going to keep supporting Israel and occasionally making noises about how they might stop if they do this, and then they do this. And in fact, as we go on, I added a little bit to this piece. As we go on, you'll see Israel knows that. They spit right in his face. They spit right in his face. They went right into Rafah and said there's going to go on another 7 months.
Yeah, exactly. So this red line, which apparently has to do with how Rafah is bombarded, not whether or not to massacre the people of Rafah, but how to do it, right?
How to do it, right.
According to John Kirby, the president has been crystal clear on that, and he said numerous times, we are not okay with a ground invasion of Rafah. Well, Russell, as he just mentioned, you found this, so why don't you tell us what this is here?
Yeah, so the subtitle of this headline is "Go Get Your Fucking Shine Box." Israel to Biden. Israel says Gaza war likely to last another 7 months as tanks probe Rafah. And I just got to say, yeah, they're probably reading the U.S. right, but are they reading the world right? The arrogance to believe that they're not going to come out of this diplomatically and economically isolated. You know, some people, when I say that, maybe I'm not cynical enough, say, no, they won't face consequences. I don't know, man. I mean, you can't force consumers to buy products.
Right.
So I don't see how they think they're doing this for another 7 months without being such a pariah and being so crippled economically that it's going to be pretty easy for the surrounding countries to take them out.
Yeah.
So just pulled a little bit of this. Israel sent tanks on raids into Rafah on Wednesday and predicted its war on Hamas and Gaza would continue all year after Washington said the Rafah assault did not amount to a major ground operation that would trigger a change in U.S. policy. Israeli tanks moved into the heart of Rafah for the first time on Tuesday, despite an order from the International Court of Justice to end its attacks on the city, where many Palestinians had taken refuge from bombardment elsewhere. The World Court said Israel had not explained how it would keep evacuees from Rafah safe and provide food, water, and medicine. Its ruling also called on Hamas to release hostages taken from Israel on October 7th immediately and unconditionally. All right, if this were any other country, or any country that we're not allied with, I should say, conducting itself this way, we'd call it a rogue state. Whoever its leader was, we would certainly make the Hitler comparison. It's a new Hitler. Their intentions are expansionist. You'd be hearing after Netanyahu takes Gaza, it's going to be Egypt next, and it's going to be the whole Middle East. You'd be hearing all of that. But no, it's our ally, man. You can do anything, and Israel knows it. And they don't, as we've pointed out. They don't care about Joe Biden getting reelected. Look at Trump. He's talking about deporting student protesters. They fucking love Trump. They love Donald Trump.
They helped Trump get elected
the first time. They would love to see him come back. They did.
Yeah.
You want to look for collusion? Look at Israel. What was it? The Nation.
The
did
Nation
a whole
did a
article about that.
Big write-up. Big feature about
a lot of the stuff that's fishy, it really is. But you're talking about the wrong country. The wrong country was behind a lot of these incidents that people point out as evidence of foreign collusion. It wasn't Russia. It was Israel. Yeah, there was foreign collusion with Israel.
Yeah, notice what's 7 months from now? January of next year. January of next year, we get a new president potentially. Right? Also notice about this 7-month figure, because I remember this. I'm sure many of you in the audience have a pretty perfect memory of Netanyahu justifying the ground invasion of Rafah to Joe Biden by saying, we're almost done. We have almost completed our objective, right? 6 weeks ago, when Biden's saying, no, this is our red line, you can't do that. Netanyahu says, we have to do it. The war is almost won. We're this close. Once we go into Rafah, that'll be everything. Well, here they are saying, no, actually, we're only halfway through. We're only halfway through. What is this, 8 months, another 7 months?
Well,
this is about
they're
half
halfway through. If your intention is to keep this area completely unlivable,
right,
so that you're really forcing a conversation about the surrounding countries having to take the refugees, probably with U.S. bribery money,
right,
so that you can start to build your 5-star hotels on the coast, you need 7 more months.
Yep, and that's what they want. So even that line about how, well, come on, don't stop us now, we're almost done. Maybe this is why they rejected all of those ceasefire deals. Remember, there was a full hostage exchange on the table back, I believe it was March, and Netanyahu turned it down because we need to achieve total victory. And his promise attached with that is that total victory is just around the corner. We can't stop now. We've come all this way. We're almost there. They're not almost there. They're not almost there. They want to be there throughout the year. Throughout the year, it's only May. They're saying 7 more months. They want to be there until January. Maybe that's why they turn those deals down.
Well,
because maybe they don't give a shit about, I mean, think about the slap in the face. Okay, the international community, they don't give a fuck about that. Think about the slap in the face this is to your own people who are protesting because they believe very strongly and rightly that you care more about your land grab in Gaza than you do about their family members who are being held hostage. Think what a slap in the face it is to them to say this is going to go on 7 more months. They're telling the families of these hostages they don't give a fuck about the hostages. That's what they're telling them when they say that.
Right. Well,
they say it anyway. They don't give a shit.
They
don't give a shit.
Well, they don't, because what's in Likkud's charter? From the river to the sea.
Right.
This is
right.
a once, maybe ever opportunity to go ahead and ethnically cleanse this neighborhood and make, or this region, and to make from the river to the sea almost a reality. Why are they attacking the West Bank? They keep attacking people in the West Bank. There's no Hamas in the West Bank if it's about Hamas. They keep moving their settlers in. This is all part of a 76-year game that they've played with the international community. Now they're losing their Holocaust get out of jail free card. And I don't think they've processed what that means.
Yeah.
How can the world continue to do business with a state that's committed a fucking genocide in broad daylight and violated every international norm, defied every international court, just murdered women and children and men, non-military men, out in the open. In their arrogance and their confidence that the U.S. will always have their back and always be in a position to have their back. Frankly, what happens if the dollar collapses?
Right.
Chris Hedges called, I believe, 2028, and I'm in concurrence with him. As he wrote an article a while ago. I think he wrote a couple to this effect, that basically the empire has until 2028 before the chickens come home to roost. I agree with that number.
Yeah, that sounds about right. All right, let's do. We got one more segment,
and that's why we urge you to invest in noble gold.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Coupon code JOO on noble gold. Yeah, exactly. RU Poster, we're all robot dogs of war now. Thank you, RU Poster. Appreciate that. It doesn't cross Biden's red line because aerial bombing doesn't create dead Israelis. So in their opinion, no people were harmed. Yeah, good way to think of it, I guess. Stoop sign, if you remember the Kirby video game, Kirby has always sucked. I do remember the Kirby video game. Yes, I never played it, but I played the Super Smash Brothers on the Nintendo 64, and Kirby was actually a good character in that game. He was actually a good character to play, I found. Let's go to, he was a good character to play because he could puff his cheeks up, so when you got knocked off the side, you could puff your cheeks up and float your way back onto the island. So that was always my way of thinking there.
Somebody asked if I was a gamer because I made that joke about Age of Empires and Civilization. All right, the way my mind works and the way games are designed mean I can't play games because I'm prone to game addiction.
Yeah,
the combination of goal orientation. I'm very goal oriented, so like the way games are structured, where you got to accomplish this, and you got to accomplish this, and you got to accomplish this. It sucks me right in. So the only game that until the wokes destroyed it that I would play is whenever there was a new version of Civilization. I would say, okay, I'm going to be out of commission for a couple of weeks, play it until I've kind of beat it at a high enough level that my ego is satisfied, and just not play it anymore except on occasion. And that's what I've always done. I uploaded the last expansion pack, and I wish I hadn't. It destroyed the game.
Like, this is on a PC or on like a gaming system?
On a PC. Why would I get a gaming system? I don't really game.
Right.
But destroyed it because Civilization, the premise of Civilization was you're gaming out what was really the underlying cause of different civilizations to wind up having empires, right? And so very logically, every edition of Civilization, you really could not win the game without defeating a couple of neighboring countries, which is historically accurate. There's never been an empire that didn't fight wars. They completely rejiggered the algorithm so that now it's actually a disadvantage to go to war. That's not Civilization anymore. That's Fantasyland. Like they destroyed it, and I think that's why you don't have a Civ 7. Because why would you play it? And I think the basic premise of Civilization is so politically fraught now that they just can't even make it under its original premises. Like there were advantages to choosing fascism as your political system, and there were disadvantages. Like, and can you do that now? Can you give people advantages for being fascist?
Could you choose to play as Netanyahu? If you're Israel in Civilization, that's easy. You just ask America for money when the times get tough, and there you go, infinite life.
I don't think they did they establish in Israel. Okay, in the last expansion pack, I didn't play it very much. I stopped.
That'd be like level 1. You get to play as Israel.
You get to play.
Yeah. That would be like training mode. You get to play as Israel, where no negative consequences for any action ever
for anything.
And infinite money and resources supply.
You don't even have to do diplomacy. There's no diplomacy screen for Israel.
Yeah.
In the last expansion pack, they also it's ridiculous. For one thing, the civilizations were already pretty representative Like you had African civilizations, and you had the Aztecs. You already had that. It's not like it was all, Abraham Lincoln and Alexander. You had others. They went so over the top with the new civilizations. It's just, every civilization they could think of, every tribal group they could think of, they threw in there. So they just let the wokes go crazy on the programming, and now nobody plays it anymore. That's why there's no new edition.
It's a disaster.
It's a disaster. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody who used to like Civilization, they can't play it anymore. They have to buy vintage editions.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Sparky, the late radio DJ talk show host Don Imus, described Trump's sense of humor as like Don Rickles.
It kind of is.
Yeah, kind of is. Yep, yeah. Similar. Tupac Amaru, thanks for the $9.99. Appreciate that. Sparky says, maybe not true in NYC. In the 60s, in Atlanta, you were only black, white, or East Asian. Didn't have the population density for noticeable ethnic enclaves. Many South Asian doctors and scientists. Interesting. That's
doesn't
interesting.
Doesn't mean they were white.
Right.
I mean, you're saying they were white. Like, yeah, of course we had Indian doctors in New York, but it doesn't mean they were white. Doesn't mean they were considered white people.
Right.
Yeah.
As a dissident that's been around since Sean Lester Frazier. Yeah, you've been around forever. As a dissident that's been around since the early days.
Cool.
Oh, my fiance and I are excited to come up to New York for the live show. Congrats on all the success. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you, Sean. Look forward to meeting you. Yeah, Sean's been around for the way, way early days. I think Sean was the first caller on the first interactive stream we ever did. Those are back on
Really?
Facebook. Yeah, yeah, it was way, way back. But yes, well, that's great. Congratulations on the engagement, and look forward to meeting you guys. Absolutely. AD, what if those robot dogs run away, go feral, and evolve into robot wolves? This is wholly irresponsible. Sorry, I'm an hour behind on the stream. That's all right. Thank you.
That's pretty much what happened in that Black Mirror episode.
Oh, yeah?
Well, they went off and became independent.
Early 60s, parents were friends with a couple, the husband American Lebanese named Nasib. Never heard a racist comment that he wasn't white. Lived in racist mid-Appalachia. Interesting.
All right, so one more time. I am not saying people were virulently racist against Arab people 50 years ago. I'm saying they were not white people. I'm saying nobody would have said, hey, the Arab guy next door? Nobody would have said, oh, the white guy? That's all I'm saying. Calm down.
Right. Stoop sign. Israel said in the beginning of this year it would take all 2024. Interesting. The China shell. Oh, I like this. Russell, you're just flat wrong. If you play on anything over Chieftain, there's war constantly.
Not with the expansion pack.
Okay,
Not
what
with
I
the
want,
expansion pack.
You know what would be fun is
the original Civ 6, but I played the expansion pack, and anytime I went to war, there were severe penalties for going to war. Whereas in the past, you had to go to war. You couldn't win the game otherwise. It was impossible.
The China shell says, I've never had a game of Civ that I wasn't aggressed on by the belligerent AI.
Do you have the updated latest expansion pack of the last edition of Civ? That's what I'm talking about. The original edition was the same as the other ones in that regard. The expansion pack totally fucked it.
Can you play one-on-one? We could stream a Russ versus China shell Civilizations.
That would be awesome.
That would be the ultimate thing.
We should. Hey, man.
Make that a Twitch exclusive. We'll do that as our premier Twitch stream.
We should do that. It'll bring in a lot of audience. Look at these fucking miserable, fucking talentless bozos who have these huge audiences because they fucking stream games. You got fucking what's his name? Fucking Shank's fucking nephew.
Oh, Hassan. Yeah,
Hassan. That's why he has an audience. Fucking Jeremy from the Quartering is like as fucking boring as a fucking stepped on oatmeal cookie, and this fucking guy has a huge audience.
He games
because he get. Yeah, apparently that was how he started. That was how he built an audience.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know. Now he just kind of sells the coffee, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he sells the coffee by just going on and being like, yeah, this guy in the locker room at Planet Fitness.
What are you going to do?
And by the way, Coffee Brand Coffee is having a sale. Like,
that's the concept.
It's ridiculous. Right? Like, there's absolutely no value added to his commentary at all. At all.
That's funny. We went by the anthropological definition of who was what race in the 60s. All right. Thanks, Sparky. Okay, let's go on.
I mean, the census forms didn't.
Yeah, I wouldn't know. I would not know.
The census forms had ethnic white into the 60s.
Oh, how are we on likes? Are we at 666 on the likes? I think we probably are. Let's say we are. Let's do that. Yeah, because we owe you guys from last time. We hit 666 likes last time and we didn't do it, so we owe you anyway. All right, we got one more segment on the day, folks, before we will close the lights on this stream. Okay, this would be funny in a sort of morbid, sort of darkly comic Coen Brothers sense if it weren't so tragic. But U.S. pier constructed off Gaza has broken apart. What was that Coen Brothers movie, A Serious Man? Where things just get worse and worse and worse, no matter what.
I like that movie.
Yeah, that's kind of what would happen. This is like the geopolitical version of that. Where on top of all this happens. The temporary pier. Yeah, exactly. The temporary pier constructed by the U.S. military to transport aid into Gaza broke apart and sustained damage in heavy seas on Tuesday in a major blow to the American-led effort to create a maritime corridor for humanitarian supplies into the war-torn enclave, the Pentagon said. The pier was damaged and sections of the pier need rebuilding and repairing, Pentagon Deputy Press Secretary Sabrina Singh said on Tuesday. The pier will be removed from its location on the Gaza coast over the next 48 hours and taken to the Israeli port of Ashdod, where U.S. Central Command will carry out repairs, Singh said. The repairs will take more than a week, further delaying the effort to get the maritime corridor fully operating. Well, that's okay. Take your time. No rush. Not like it's an emergency or anything. Earlier, 4 U.S. officials told CNN the pier broke apart in heavy seas. Part of the pier, which consists of a narrow causeway to drive aid into Gaza and a wider parking area to drop off supplies transported by ship, disconnected on Sunday, the officials said. The parking area will have to be reconnected to the causeway before the pier can be used again. The damage, first reported by NBC News, occurred 3 days after heavy seas forced 2 small U.S. Army vessels to beach in Israel, according to U.S. Central Command, while another 2 vessels broke free of their moorings and were anchored near the pier. I believe most of our soldiers were able to remain on the vessels and still are currently on them, Singh said during Tuesday's Pentagon press briefing. And within the next 24 or 48 hours, the Israeli Navy will be helping push those vessels back, and hopefully they'll be fully operational by then. The pier, which cost $320 million, had only begun operating on May 17th, when heavy seas forced the maritime shipments to stop 1 week later on May 24th, 2 days before part of the pier disconnected. It's unclear when shipments will resume. So they got 7 days out of this thing. Not even, 6 and change. The temporary pier, called the Joint Logistics Over the Shore, requires very good sea conditions to operate. CNN reported previously that J-lots can only be operated safely in a maximum of 3-foot waves and winds less than approximately 15 miles per hour. My grandparents used to sell socks at the flea market on J-lots. That's what that sounds like. Sounds like, like a flea market venue.
I can see why they spent $320 million saying, hey, what could go wrong with this?
Yeah.
I could see why they thought this was a good plan.
Yeah.
Heavier... Yeah. Sure. In an area known for storms, rough seas, go build a pier that can't function in more than 3-foot waves.
Rather than just force the aid through on land, rather than force Israel not to massacre people when they drive the aid in on trucks, which would, be Occam's razor. That's the simplest solution, right? Don't kill people as they rush the truck for food, right?
Yeah.
No, instead of that, let's build a $320 million pier in rough waters and use that as a corridor to ship aid in from the sea. Yeah. Heavier sea conditions delayed the deployment of the pier for several weeks as the system sat docked in the Israeli port of Ashdod waiting for favorable conditions. On Thursday, Vice Admiral Brad Cooper, Deputy Commander of U.S. Central Command, said 820 metric tons of aid had been delivered through the pier to the Gaza beach, where the UN was responsible for distributing it to the Palestinian population. The Pentagon said Thursday that more than 1,000 metric tons of aid had been delivered before the temporary pier had to halt operations. Daniel Dieckhaus, the director of USAID's Levant Response Management Team, told reporters Thursday that there were thousands and thousands of tons of aid waiting in Cyprus to be delivered through the maritime corridor, but those shipments are now paused with the temporary pier inoperable. Sorry, did I cut you off? Were you going to add something before I finish that?
Sometimes it's really the small things that give you the big picture. This is an imperial decline story if there ever was one.
Absolutely, yep.
You've got the combination of the fact that we won't lean on our ally that is wholly dependent on us for its very existence to make this not necessary.
Right.
Why would you spend $320 million instead of saying, you don't fucking open up that corridor? You know what? We're going to help Jordan invade you.
Right. Exactly.
Why would you not? That's a very weak, feckless power in a sclerotic state of decline. And then you build it. The plan makes no sense. Very much like in New Orleans, they built the new seawall to a much lower standard than they really needed to. That's very typical of America in its decline. I can't remember what the standard is. I think to a 1,000-year standard, and really the engineers all told them it needed to be to a 10,000-year standard. But it'll be fine. Now all the insurance companies are pulling out of Louisiana. People can't get their houses insured. All of these houses are going to come up worthless. Why would you do this knowing that $320 million? Like, what are the odds you're not going to get winds more than 15 miles an hour? What are the odds that you're not going to get waves that are more than 3 feet high in this region? So why even do this? That is imperial decline. That is when you don't have a lot of money, you do a lot with a little. When you have a lot of money, there's a tendency to just do stupid things with a lot because you can.
Because you can, and you have to do something, right? We can't do nothing, right? If Israel rolls in with aid trucks and people rush the aid trucks and Israel opens fire on people who run at the aid trucks, then, well, what are we going to do now, right? We can't just not send aid in, but we can't trust that aid will reach these people the easy way. So let's spend $320 million on a pier that's not going to be able to withstand 20-mile-an-hour winds. Is that, right? I mean, if I read that right, that seems to be the design strategy of this pier.
Yes.
Right. Exactly. Yes. Exactly.
That is an imperial power very far into its decline that no longer has the capacity to think reasonably and practically. If you look at empires that have been successful in their rise, there's usually, when we think of the Romans, for example, we think of late Rome, we think of orgies and vomitoriums, but that was a symptom of their decline. The Romans were actually a very conservative and practical and hard-nosed people for that era, and that was really what underlied their success at the time. And so were we. And this is not justifying our horrific crimes against many peoples around the world. I'm purely talking in terms of real politic here. Americans were very practical, very much like the Romans, good engineers, very conservative in the broad sense. And we've been rich and powerful for just too damn long. We have lost those qualities. I don't think the Americans that won World War II, or in some capacity, yes, our Russia shills, yes, the Red Army won World War II, but insofar as our contribution went, I don't think they would have built this fucking pier back then. Mm-mm. We're just not those people anymore. Somebody would have said, "What the hell are you talking about? Why are we going to build a pier that's only going to work every once in a while?" Nobody said that. Nobody in the whole chain of command. Nobody said this is stupid.
Well, that's why this isn't just, it's not just imperial decadence, it's imperial decline, because surely, as you just laid out there, this was doomed from the very beginning, from before the very beginning. Like the thought of it should have raised the red flag. Hey, this is not workable.
What are you thinking?
But when you know you're in decline anyway, when you know all we're doing here is throwing some money at the problem to buy us time, to buy us some sort of political leeway, to tell people, look, we're trying to get this aid in. We know it's doomed. We know Gaza is doomed. We know these people are doomed. Our ally, our key ally in the region, is going to take over this land, and however many people have to die for them to do that is how many people are going to have to die for them to do that. We know that is the course we're on. So none of it's going to work, right? Like, none of these plans of ours are actually going to work. What they're going to do is they're going to buy time. So, yeah, we're going to build this pier so we could say we made this investment to try and get the aid through. Is it going to work? No. We'll explain that when we have to. But in the meantime, we'll get a week's worth of aid in. You're just buying yourself time, knowing that you are on the way out.
We tried to do something.
Exactly. Knowing it's all going to fail. It's all going to fail. You're just trying to manage your way through this. This is a managed collapse. That's what we've heard that phrase many times, and it's true in this case as well. All right, let's read some last super chats before we close the books on yet another stream. We'll be back in the morning tomorrow, 9 a.m. for some morning dew. We have some lighter segments tomorrow and some heavier ones, but you know it's a morning show, so we'll try to make things as cheery as we can for you guys tomorrow. People kid about it now, says Sparky, but before the mid-1800s, science considered Irish as subhuman, not so for the other ethnicities, races, or nationalities, whether enslaved, exploited, or otherwise. Irish were the rental cars among people exploited as labor. Thank you, Sparky. Omar, Do Destiny's game stream. Yeah, that's what we should call our gamer streams. Do Destiny.
I'm just gonna say, Sparky, have you ever watched any old movies? Like, have you ever watched any old movies? Because there's no way what you're saying is true. Like, it just isn't. Like, go watch how Africans are represented in early Hollywood movies. Go look at how Egyptians are represented in these movies. They did not look at them as white people. It's pretty obvious. Look at how they represent Caribbean cultures, Latin cultures. They did not consider them as equals.
Sparky says, Russell, if you were black, you might have described your Lebanese neighbor as white.
I mean, that's neither here nor there.
Isn't Jeremy Boring Ben Shapiro's boss? Yes. Well, I don't think he's his boss. Right. I mean, I think he's the CEO, but I mean, I think they have equal power. I mean, maybe technically as a figurehead. I
think Ben has to give Jeremy a reach around, but Jeremy doesn't have to.
Yeah, there you go. Sashimi Seductions. George Galloway offered Jeremy Corbyn a unity ticket, but Jeremy Corbyn refused because ick factor of George Galloway being a, quote, transphobe. Historic missed opportunity. Deep state strikes again. Many of my leftist friends against George Galloway for same reason. So sad. Yeah, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. I don't know. You know, it's funny. Maybe we should look into that story.
Tell them to come over here. They'll love our show.
Hey, maybe we should look into that story for tomorrow because we do some Euro segments for tomorrow. Maybe I'll look into that. So George Galloway, Jeremy Corbyn. All right, I'll Google that. Maybe we'll do a segment on it tomorrow. The pier happens to be near a $500 million.
Yeah, he's running as an independent now, right?
Yeah, Corbyn is as an independent. Yeah, because he was expelled. The pier happens to be near a $500 billion oil field. Convoy for aid, my a-hole. Thank you, Pat Donahue. Susanna?
I don't know if they'd build such a shit pier for oil.
Yeah,
only
that's
for
true.
People.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You know who should build that pier? Donald Trump. If I built that pier, it would have been strong. I would have gotten the right materials. We would have built it for a third the cost, and it would have done a great job. Notice he's not going to brag about that, right?
If you're going to build a pier in the desert, you're called Egypt.
Right, yeah, exactly.
I call my friends over in the UAE.
Right. Susanna, do you think we'll eventually see American soldiers fighting in this Israeli genocide? No. And actually, you know, I don't know that it will last another 7 months. I don't know. I mean, that's what they're saying.
Yeah, who's going to be left to kill?
Yeah. I mean, is there going to be anything left there? And, you know, you might start seeing sanctions within that period of time. really start to expand. Jay Sharp, carry on, gents. Great work. Thank you, Jay Sharp. Appreciate that. This is the age of the paid useless consultant. Well, that's a factor too, but that in itself is a symptom of the kind of imperial decline that we're talking about. Yeah, absolutely.
The age of McKinsey.
Absolutely. All right, folks. Well, that's our show for today. Thank you guys very much for being here. We appreciate you all very much. We will see you tomorrow at 9 a.m. on YouTube and Rumble. Hit that like button on the way out. Hit that subscribe button on the way out over on Rumble. Hit that follow button on the way out. We got 2 shows tomorrow, 9 a.m. Morning Dew for the general public, and then a doubleheader for the patrons. We'll have a Patreon show tomorrow at 2 p.m. with you guys able to call in as well. So thank you guys very much for being here today. We will see you all bright and early tomorrow with some Dolly Parton tunes on our dashboard. We will see you guys all then. Thank you very much for being here this afternoon. Until we see you tomorrow, be safe and be well.
Courage.
Please clap.